Hello.
Hello.
Welcome back to Tea and a Chat.
With Harry and Pat. Woohoo! No, we're putting this to bed now, Harry, right? The podcast is officially Tea and a Chat with Harry and Pat, aka Zara. Okay? That is what it is now. We're not going to talk about it every time that we come in. That is just it. And in the future episodes, if you listen and think, who the hell is Pat? You're going to have to go back and find out why, right? We're not going to explain it every time. But yes, the only reason I'm addressing it now is yesterday in one of our dance classes, we were speaking to one of our pupils. Hi, Holly, if you're listening.
Hi, Holly.
And she was talking about the podcast, and I was like, who's Tina chat with? And she was like, Harry and Pat. And it is just... It just is now, and I'm not mad about it. I don't know why you're so mad about it, because it's not even your name that's changed.
I've tried to fight, for the authenticity of who we are, and I've lost, so I'm disappointed about that.
Harry and Pat, aka Zara. That's fine. Everyone knows it's me.
You see, you've changed that. In fairness, you've always just said Harry and Pat. You haven't said anything about. I'm the one who's been reinforcing your name.
Okay, well, we'll compromise. It's going to be Tea and a Chat with Harry and Pat. Take a breath, aka Sarah. Nice.
Can we just, despite you saying this, that we will never start the podcast like this again. We have already recorded podcasts that are going to come out after this, where we have had this conversation again. So it will come back.
But if you listen to future podcasts and think, well, that's an old one that they recorded because they talk about Harry and Pat, then you're a real guy, like you're a Tina Chat stan.
In fairness, the podcasts I'm referring to, they both have guests on. So we've got a couple more guests. We had Daniel last week, which is accurate, considering we record these podcasts out of order. But we've got a couple more. We'll get onto the drinks in a minute, Sarah, don't you worry.
Sorry for slurping.
I've totally lost what I was saying.
The guests. So we've had Daniel.
We'll have to explain it to them, because it's especially the most recent guest we recorded, we had to sort of, that's someone I knew and you didn't know, and I'm not going to introduce you as Pat because that's not your name. Yeah,
and then we do the intro. It's like, welcome to Tina Chat with Harry and Pat, and they're like, what?
What is going on?
Anyway, well, if they listen to the podcast, they would know. So I've decided, if anyone doesn't know who Pat is, it's their problem.
Let's not get aggressive about this.
I'm not aggressive. You're going to see me get aggressive?
This is not being edited out. Just letting you know. This is authentic Zara.
Can you hear my itching?
Yeah, can you hear itching?
I had an itch that needed to scratch. Anyway,
you're not like this with guests.
No, too shy. Let's move on to our drinks, Harry.
Let's move on to our drinks, which actually, our very last guest of this, last guest that we have on this series, we forgot to talk about drinks, but she did have one. Yeah,
I know. All right, here's the deal. So the podcast we're referring to will come out near Christmas, yeah?
I think it's scheduled to come out on the 8th or 10th of December, the second Friday of December, I think.
Yeah, so it's coming out in the future time. But we did the intro, we were chatting about Pat, LOL, and then I thought, he's not done his drinks, but he's moved on. And I didn't want to interrupt you because you were in your flow. But I remembered. And then I seen her drinking and I thought, that's so horrible if she's listened to the podcast, knew that we brought a drink every time as well. Because normally I tell our guests to bring a drink and I forgot to put that in our email.
Well, that's all right then. I feel like that if you'd put that and I'd not said anything, that would have been worse. If she's listened to it before and we've not asked her about a drink, then that's just still on me.
Hi, Catherine. Sorry. We hope you enjoyed your drink and we hope it was tea.
No, but did we have drinks then?
Yeah, darling. We always... Actually, I had a Pepsi.
Well, that's a curveball.
That was
isn't
a
it?
change, and that's another reason I didn't say, because I thought he doesn't want to acknowledge the fact we've got, because it's the only time we've filmed a podcast in the evening. We usually do them in the morning, so we've got a bit more hot drink vibes, but we had dinner time vibe drinks.
Just for the more switched on listeners there, we do just record the podcasts, we don't film them.
You need to get lost, right? Let's get into this now.
No, you say that all the time, you know, and I always think this, and I
Filming.
never say anything. Yeah.
Well, you are kind of filming them with your mouth.
No, we ain't filming nothing.
Christmas special though.
Yes, that one we will.
We're going to film that.
Just because
Ho,
Christmas
ho, ho.
jumpers. What? That should just be fun. I think that'll just be funny.
Yeah.
I wonder if that was picked up.
I don't know if you heard that, but there was a ship that just...
Just blew its horn. Anyway, to the drinks, you know.
Oh my god, this is going to be such a long podcast. So, today I have a lukewarm chai latte.
That's because I made it, and then there was a natural disaster, which meant that the chai was not consumed at the time it was intended. No one's fault.
Any girls out there will know, right? I opened up my eyeshadow.
Not just girls.
Yeah, that's actually very rude of me. Anyone out there who wears makeup will know. I opened up my eyeshadow palette, and it'd been travelling with us last weekend, and one of the little square things had smashed and broken, and when I opened it, all the brown eyeshadow as well went all over a cream carpet, so I had to clean.
Yeah, it's fair enough. It's just an accident, isn't it? So what can you do? So you got a lukewarm chai. Is it
It's
okay?
actually freaking delicious.
You love a chai tea.
Yeah.
don't you? What is it? Chai tea latte? Is that what they
I think
call
that's what they're called. It's just like a
It's mostly
frothy-
milk, isn't it?
frothy tea.
Yeah. I have a peppermint tea in a newly featured mug of this podcast. I don't think this mug's been on the podcast before. This is a mug you bought
How
me.
would we know?
Well, I'm just assuming. We chatted about mugs very briefly, okay? And Holly, hi again, mentioned that we brought out mugs, so once or twice. I think we've done it a couple of times.
Okay, well, what mug do you have now?
I have this is a lovely mug that you've bought me that you're getting very aggressive about. Don't know what's going on today. With a peppermint tea in it. It's actually quite a popular mug amongst guests to this household. It's just a nice blue mug.
It's cool. It's
got like a bigger bottom and a thinner top, but not by much.
It's not me. Joking. That was a joke. No, but it's like a bit like clay vibes. It's been painted and varnished. It's nice.
Yeah. It is lovely. And it's like kind of blue, but like there's like faded elements to it. Was it always like that? It was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice mug.
I got it from Neon Sheep, if anyone wants to know, but I don't think it's a shop anymore. Or maybe it is, I don't know.
Neon Sheep.
Anyway, my mug is also a popular one with our guests, if our guest is my mum. And it is black with stars and the moon.
It is.
The moon.
From Edinburgh, that mug.
From Edinburgh. I just did like a really bad Scottish accent.
Yeah, you don't need to put on an accent for where you've grown up and you're from.
I just mimicked people's bad Scottish accents.
That's
in Edinburgh.
Yeah, you've been down in England too long, apparently.
I know, that's it. We're moving.
Okay.
Right. That's 20 minutes of your life you're never getting back,
Yeah.
so let's move on.
Welcome to the pod.
Yay!
So today's episode is about identity in the industry.
Yes.
Now I'm going to just put it out there. I probably will still say things because I think I got a bit confused about what I'd interpreted this as.
I don't think you got confused. I think maybe when we set out to plan this podcast, we went at it from two different angles, which I think is fine. It's going to mean different things to different people.
The angle that that you were talking about after I'd done a bit of planning, and I was like, oh, actually, maybe this isn't right.
always right.
Is the better angle and more about, I think, what this podcast is also about. So, without further ado, let's just get into it. So, identity in the industry, what does that mean?
So, in my eyes,
Yes.
I see identity in the industry as like, who are you? And in a sense, I mean that at like the very core of
Of your being.
your being, who are you? What excites you? What do you like to do? What jobs do you want to do? What skills do you have that you enjoy doing? So I'll explain this a bit more. I think for me, when you go to, and again, I always speak from more of a dance perspective, but you can let me know if it was the same for you. When you go to a performing arts school or dance school and you're training for those 3 years, I feel like you're put in this little box, whether it be intentional or unintentional. You're in this little bubble, in this little box of we're training you and we're producing a product to go out there in the industry and get a job. Now, for me, where I trained, what that looked like was we trained all the time, and the idea is that you would leave. If you were like really serious about dancing, you would either move down to London or you would travel 100 times a week down to London to do London editions for things like cruise ships. Again, I'm speaking from dance course because I'm sure we had different courses, they're all different, but to do things like cruise ships or, I don't know, some commercial work or whatever, and that's just how it was. Like that was what was put on a pedestal, and everyone who left and graduated and was seen as quote unquote successful were people who went away to do those kind of jobs, really. And there was other jobs, like certain jobs, I won't say what they are because to me it means nothing, but that people would have that were seen as somewhat lesser than or whatever, right?
Right.
And I graduated knowing that I wasn't really sure at the time what I wanted to do. Actually, I don't think that's true. I don't think I was honest with myself what I wanted to do.
Right.
But I just sort of knew I wanted to move down to London. I wanted to see what the London scene was about. I wanted to experience auditions and whatever. But I, deep down in my gut, was like, I don't really want to go away on a cruise ship for 9 months. you know?
Fair enough.
And the thing is, I'm not saying I wouldn't have done it and I wouldn't have enjoyed it and I wouldn't have experienced it, but that's what I taught through going to where I trained. That's what I was learned. That's what I was taught, and that's what I learned.
Yeah.
Through being there is what I wanted to do, even though that wasn't really my truth, my identity, who I was. So I was going into these audition rooms that maybe weren't necessarily right for me, because deep down it wasn't really what I wanted to do, and I wasn't being honest with myself. And in that was a sort of became this feeling of, well, I'm not good enough, I don't really know what I want to be doing, I don't know who I am. I'm walking into these rooms giving people a wishy-washy version of myself because I was trying to tick everyone else's boxes before I was ticking mine. I spoke a lot. Does that make any sense?
That absolutely makes sense. Yeah, I think there's a lot of, I think sort of as performers we are inherently somewhat conditioned to, not always, but I think there's probably more of a majority that you've kind of got to grab near enough every job that is presented to you, or opportunity.
Oh my God.
I
have so many feelings about that.
Do you agree with that?
Absolutely not.
No, as in, do you agree with you feel like that is a thing?
Oh, it definitely is a thing.
Yeah.
And I say absolutely not like that, but I mean, I think it depends on the person. I think if you just want to experience everything, then take every job, why not? But I think there's nothing wrong with being choosy.
Yeah, being selective, choosing what you want to do. But that is that's you being true to your identity within the industry, and that's the point, isn't it? Because if you're wanting to, like you say, try everything, do everything, you're not averse to being like, yeah, I'll do this, I'll do that, I'll do whatever. That is great. Then go do those things. It's not right or wrong to do anything. That it's just we, as you know, Harry and Zara believe that fulfill what feels good to you, and I think that's all we're about just in life anyway. So that is the priority. So that will then naturally lend itself to, do I want to be in a musical? Not really, but I keep getting put up for musicals. Then you've got to take action to change that. Say, actually, I want to do more plays or more whatever.
I do actually remember vividly being told by different agents and whoever, like when you do workshops, whatever, like when you're, as a dancer, when you're first setting out in the industry, you have to take every job, and once you get a bit of a name for yourself, once you've got a few more credits and whatever, then you can be choosy. And I remember really feeling that like pressure when I came out from training, being like, well, you get offered this job, I don't really want to do it, but I just have to go away for 6 months and do this thing I don't want to do and be unhappy for 6 months, just so it's a thing on my, do you know what I mean? It's just never aligned with who I am, and I've always said I would rather have worked less as a performer and just do the jobs I like than work constantly as a performer and have to do the jobs I don't want to do as well.
Neighbour's dog agrees with you.
Yeah, thanks for... Maybe it's Pat!
No, I agree with that. I don't know whether this differs maybe from a dancing background to an acting background, but I do not feel that you have to get a load of little jobs under your belt to then get something that is a bit more desirable. Because for me, particularly if those jobs are unrelated, it makes no difference. Because if I was to go and do a load of, I don't know, if I was, again, this is an example, so if I was to be in 2 or 3 small scale musicals or something, but what I really want to do was a big feature film, that doesn't make, like, there's no, yes, there's still performance things and they might be good, but it doesn't really show that I've got a camera skill set. Does that make sense? So
I think as well it's about being aware on so again, we'll get more into identity in the industry in a minute. We've gone off on a bit of a tangent, but this is why it's so important to know who you are in the industry, because that will help you decide which opportunities are going to be right for you and where you want to go. So if you get offered a job, say I don't, your dream is to be in a big feature film, right, with this specific director, and that's what it is, and you see that there's a casting for an advert that's done by this director, and it's maybe you wouldn't have chosen to do adverts, but it's a way to get seen by them. That wouldn't be wrong for you to take that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, that's actually kind of something I was going to say earlier as well. Like, there's such a thing as workshops that casting directors do and whatever, and if you know, like, casting directors are casting particular styles of things or whatever that you want to be a part of, then go to that workshop. Like, you don't need to try and get into an audition room, because you're not always going to be right for what's being auditioned for.
Exactly.
It's more of a finite thing. So to actually go and show that you're actively working towards something as well looks good, rather than just trying to pick up an audition, because that's not realistic. You don't know that that's going to happen. And it's about taking control. One thing that popped into my head, though, talking about this, is that we do talk a lot about knowing who you are and finding out who you are. I don't know if maybe we have, but I feel like this will continue to evolve and change throughout your whole life, probably. No, I'm not saying it's going to be like drastic. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But I think it's an ongoing journey.
100%.
And I feel like whatever journey, whatever feels right for you, then follow that. Because I feel like we were talking about it just then, I was thinking, what if people are listening to this thinking, oh, I've really got to work out who I am before I start doing stuff, which isn't really what we're saying.
No.
We're talking about following what feels right, what feels good.
And being honest with yourself about what feels right.
Not doing something for the sake of doing it. Like you said at the beginning, like being boxed in by college or following the crowd, that kind of thing. It's about knowing and understanding that labels are not definitive. Because I think that's another thing that can happen. Because I know that we all get put into, before going to training as a performer, and then we all get put into little boxes and stuff. Think about school, being at school, and we naturally break off into the cliques, don't we? If there's popular kids, there's kids, groups in the middle, groups at the bottom. What does that even mean? Do you know what I mean? So my point is, long-winded, just follow what feels right, because you're going to miss joy that way, I think.
And do one little thing that feels right. So saying to yourself, do you know what? I'm not going to go to the cruise edition this week. I'm going to go to Matthew Bourne's one. I'm just going to try it out, right? Just from doing that one thing that is a bit more exciting to you, feels a bit more authentic to you, you could meet someone in there that's actually like, do you know what? There's auditions for this other show that you've never heard of. Maybe it's a smaller scale, but something that would really excite you and sounds good. And it's like the minute you start to do things for yourself that are right for you and align with you, more things start to fall into place.
Absolutely.
Rather than just banging your head against a cruise ship wall. Sorry, I'm using cruise ships as an example because that was relevant to me, but...
Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense. I think, have you just said this, or I just made this up? This last point we've got written here.
I don't know.
No.
You've got the notes.
I have. I have. And I am looking at them, I promise. Now, what it says here is knowing who you are and being confident in this can help you navigate the industry.
Well, yeah. Let's just...
I think, and it's also got a little sub thing of, handling things like rejection. Because I think that's, for me, what that makes me think of is, if you are doing something, going for an audition that you're not really 100% on, this is a job you want to do. Really weird way of saying that. If you're going up for an audition for something you're not 100% into and wanting to do, the rejection will feel very different as opposed to it being something that is like, this is the job that I've always wanted.
I think it's interesting to look at the rejection aspect of that as well, because thinking about now, when I would get rejected from certain auditions or whatever, a lot of my thoughts were, oh no, my agent's going to be disappointed. Oh no, I'm not going to look good as like part of the graduating cast. All my friends have gone off and done cruise ships and whatever. Like the bottom of my list was, oh no, I really wanted to do that. I don't actually even think I registered that,
Girl.
It was...
Oh my God.
Well, it's true though, and I think you get so swept up in that sort of world that you don't stop to think, what do I want to do?
I can understand that. We do. I think naturally as human beings we compare. It does make me sad that, especially the agent part of that though, that makes me feel a bit, for me, because I feel like, I mean, we had Danny on last season, and I've always believed that an agent is a collaborative business partner. At the end of the day, you're working together, and I don't know. I can understand.
To be fair to my agent, though, I wasn't telling them that I didn't want to do cruise ships because I didn't understand that at that time. So naturally, they're going to be disappointed because they're putting me up for jobs they think I'm happy doing. It's not.
Maybe disappointed is just the word that's been pulled out, because I feel like if I hadn't, I don't know, maybe it's just me, it's a Harry thing, but I feel like if I had an agent who was disappointed in me when I didn't get a job, I'd be like, well, that's, like, surely you've got to understand that's the nature of this, and like, yeah. I don't know, I wouldn't want, it would probably affect me knowing that someone who was submitting me for roles was disappointed, and that would be in the back of my mind the next time I went to something that may have been another cruise audition, as the example is, and I'd be thinking like, well, they were disappointed. And just thinking of them I've got an image of them being in an office being like, oh, well, I guess I'll submit them for that again, which it's again, this is a Harry thing, I think, the more I'm talking about it.
But I think what I feel the urge to defend my then agent, because maybe they weren't disappointed. Like I felt like I was letting them down by saying I've been cut first round again. That they hadn't done anything to necessarily say that or back that point up, but that's just how I felt. That's how that was my feeling. Like, oh, I'm gonna have to tell them I didn't get it, and I'm gonna have to ring my mum and tell them I didn't get it.
I suppose that's the other side of it as well. Excuse me, that my voice has gone all croaky. No, but the other side of that, with you being a dancer and you training as a dancer and me being an actor, is that I suppose I wouldn't have to tell my agent if I hadn't got, because I wouldn't know. If I'd gone up for a commercial.
They would find out from you.
Well,
they would find out from the
They'd
director.
find out or they wouldn't find out. It's more likely they'd find
Right.
out if it was a positive response. If you didn't hear anything, you're just going to carry on. Because
Right.
it's not a case of sort of getting cut.
That is
you know.
interesting.
So
No,
I
we used
guess-
to have to text our agent and
Yeah.
be like, been catting this round.
So that's different, isn't it? So I guess I can understand that makes more sense for you to be like, oh, I've got to tell them this. Whereas I wouldn't have to say anything because I wouldn't know about it. I'd just leave, I'd get on with my day to an extent.
Yeah.
Whilst overanalyzing the whole thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, did you ever... We really are sidetracking a bit, but I think it's good conversation. Did you ever, when you signed up with your agent, get like a list of things that you would be happy to do and you wouldn't do? Because I don't know whether that's a thing that you do as a dancer. Because when I signed with my first agent, I had like a list of things like particular styles of job you'd like to do. Like obviously, it went into many different factions of like TIE, puppetry, whatever it might be. All sorts of different. Do you want to do films? No, that's fine. Like we won't put you up for those. Or along with other things like, which maybe is slightly not, maybe it's irrelevant in this instance, but things like, are you happy to be, shirtless or something? Like those kind of. Are you happy to, kiss another actor? Things like that, because I got these sheets and you could fill in what you were comfortable with, and then they'd take that into account when they were submitting you for jobs. Did you have anything like that?
I don't remember it being like a sheet that you filled out. I do remember doing a thing. It might have just been on Tagmin, but it might not been. I can't remember. But I do remember having to like tell them, would you work topless? Would you, just because of the nature of like showgirl work and whatever.
Yeah.
I sort of remember doing that, but no. Doesn't mean I didn't do it, I just don't remember.
Just for those who don't know what Tagmin is, it's like a shared calendar-esque thing with an agent. It's like you put something in there, they'll be able to see it, they put something in there. So
you can know if you're busy, free, when your auditions
you
are.
know the details and measurements and everything, all sorts of
literally,
info.
Especially for a dancer, you had to have your like height, your waist size, your inner leg size, blah, 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 just so to know. Like some castings will look for specific sizes for costumes, so they wouldn't have to. Your agent wouldn't have to come back and find that out. They could just go into Tagmin.
Yeah, just so people knew what that was.
What was I saying though?
You were talking about the tick sheet, and you don't remember having done one, but you might have done.
Oh, I was gonna say, all I think we really did in that sense was when you have your like initial interview, like before they've officially offered you representation, when they're just like chatting with you, they say, this is what we see you doing, this is what we would submit you with for.
Okay.
And then you say, so mine was cruise ships, corporate work, pantos, and I was like, yeah.
Fair enough. I guess that's not a bad thing though, is it? Because they will have a like, this is a route that we could go down with you based on what we know we've got connections with, like whatever else.
It was very transparent at the start. This is what we see you doing. Do you want to do the same? Yes, no, why? Blah, blah, blah. And then that was an open conversation. I just wish I could go back in time and be like, no, I want to be a ballet dancer, please.
Hindsight's a wonderful thing. Which is why identity in the industry is important. That's 100%. A very nice surrounding point there. Because, if you had that confidence, knowledge to put that forward, life could be very different right now. You just don't know, do you?
I know.
That where we are is a bad place to be.
No, I do believe that everything happens for a reason, and I'm happier now than I ever have been. But I think the reason I think this podcast is so important is because if I look back to training, like before I started training Zara and just graduated Zara, like I was ignoring everything that was like the thing that excited me the most was to watch the Nutcracker. I would watch every version from every ballet company of the Nutcracker just for fun in my spare time on YouTube all the time. Or I love to go to ballets. I love to watch contemporary companies. I watch documentaries about the Moulin Rouge or just living life in Paris or those sort of things. I would never ever be like, what's life like on a cruise ship? What's like MT singing? None of that was my thing.
It's not quality.
Even now I'm like, why I want to go back and shake myself.
It's funny, isn't it? Because it makes so much sense. But when you're in such a whirlwind environment of training as well, in particular, which is a full-on, fast-paced 3 years. Like 3 years, it's a long time, but it's also not a long time.
It goes by so fast.
And especially if you're doing a course that's shorter than that, because not all courses are 3 years. And you know, any form of training, it's quick. 1 minute you're like, wow, like I was here and now I'm here, and what's going on? But that's really, to look at that, it's like, that makes a lot of sense. I feel like you were leading into saying, it's making me think of this anyway. I'm going to reference this podcast with Catherine again, coming in December. It was such a lovely thing to record, and we say it on the thing, and I'm going to quote you. You said, I wish I could have had this, you know, however many years ago, because it was such a good chat to have, and such a nice understanding place to come from.
I think that's the thing. I think at the time, the reason I couldn't tune in onto my identity and who I was and who I wanted to be in the industry is because my brain was so filled with like other people's opinions and what everyone else was doing and what the casting directors wanted, what they were thinking, which is kind of what we speak to Catherine about, and then what everyone else was doing that in my circle was quote unquote successful. You know, I wasn't in the contemporary company circle per se. I was in the cruise ship circle, so it was like it was very hard to look inward and say, no, I want something else, and be okay with that. So I just went with the flow. Yeah,
I can understand that. It's probably within my nature to do that as well. But I think, I don't know, I think I've always sort of found myself being like, I'm just going to do it because I enjoy it, or in the end. But it takes time to get there. Can we move on to this next kind of little section?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
If we haven't actually done it already, maybe we have.
We've really gone off on a tangent in this one, haven't we?
We have done this a bit already, actually. I've got a few bits written down here, which...
Go on.
It's kind of like... We've kind of talked about self-worth and confidence already. Know what jobs are good for you. We've actually talked about that already. we do our points without even needing the plan. Some of the stuff I wrote down, this is me at the beginning of brand image and marketing, but this is castability, isn't it?
Yeah, well, this is what we ended up chatting about, because Harry was looking at identity in the industry as your castability. So
that's where I got confused.
It is a point of it, because I say this with love, but if you're 5'11" and you want to be Mickey Mouse, it's not going to happen, because those mice are like 4'11" performers, and that's just, it is how it is.
Crushed my dreams. I
don't actually know if that's true. I don't know how tall Mickey Mouse is, so
6'2".
don't take my word for that. Go, if you want to be...
He's 6'2".
He's not, but if you want to go be Mickey Mouse, you have to research that and find out how tall they are. And in that kind of situation, you need to look at that and say, okay, well, I can't work in a Disneyland park because I'm too tall, and that's just the fact. So I either go be Mickey Mouse in another show where they will allow a big tall Mickey Mouse, or I do something else that I'm excited about, you know. And so castability does play into your sort of image and the identity in the industry in a way.
It's more the realistic, like it's, you got to be true to yourself, but be realistic within your skill set. I think this is one of the things we talked about when I was like, oh, okay, I realise I'm on the wrong track, is that, and I think we talked about this as an example, if you were trained as an opera singer, but you wanted to go do a bit of aerial work, you're not just going to jump straight into doing that. You need to do a bit of training. I mean,
it doesn't, that,
an extreme example, no?
Well, that's hard,
to be
because
realistic.
Well, I don't...
Go on, so you want to
I don't think it's unrealistic to say that you can't just change and
go
do that.
I
you
agree,
100% can.
I agree.
It's 100% realistic. I don't want you to tell yourself it's not, but you have to look at the facts and say, okay, well, I need to make sure I'm not going to kill myself when I'm on the silks, so I'm going to go get some training.
Yes.
Wow, now my castability is silks. Woohoo!
So Zara's put it in a better way than I did, but that's what I meant.
Yeah.
You can't just... You're not gonna successfully make that jump without researching, preparing.
Yeah.
You know, being realistic about okay, I need to put some work in here
Yeah.
to make it like a more of an attainable option for what I want to do.
That kind of goes into what we were saying about can you change your mind and what you want to do.
Oh yeah,
100%.
absolutely.
Your identity in the industry can constantly change. Like I could 100% go if I wanted to. Now that I realised that I was chasing the wrong jobs, go back into the industry and work to get those jobs. Like
Yeah.
I could rebrand myself and whatever and do that, but yeah, it's just about. I think as well, just a little bit side note off of that, with the castability and your whatever, knowing sort of what jobs you want to do, roughly, knowing a rough idea of where you want to go, it's going to help you do things like, and knowing your castability as well, so knowing how tall you are, how short you are, how you look, if you've got hair, if you've not got hair, like, are you going to be a villain, a good guy, whatever, like, knowing what jobs you can fit into, and then out of those jobs that you fit into, what ones you actually want to do, it's going to help you with things like your headshots,
and
what
thing,
agent to get, and what like it because everything's different, you know. Like an acting headshot and a dance headshot are two very different things.
Yeah.
And for some reason I have more acting based headshots.
Do you really?
I think so, yeah. I don't think they're really...
I think acting headshots are a really interesting thing to try and get. I think there's a lot you can... I personally feel you really want to try and convey as many things as you are able to convey within what you want to convey.
We could do a headshot one-on-one, couldn't we?
We could. I think headshots are very... A lot of headshots I see, I feel like, I feel like I'm just... I mean, to an extent you are looking at the same person in different tops. But you really, for me, I like to look at headshots where people are like, wow, that kind of suggestion pops into my head. Same person, different t-shirt, but wow, that now you're giving me a totally different vibe.
Yeah.
Rather than, it's very, I feel very judgmental saying it, but I do think there's a point to it because, you know, if I was to sit there with a straight face, smiley face, whatever, and just go between a couple of different tops, like,
which is definitely what I think. I'm generalizing here. Actually, no, I'm not going to say it. I was going to say it. Definitely what I did as a dancer graduating. You know,
headshots are quite hard. There's replications of an audition environment. I feel with headshots as well. Like to go into an unknown environment. Camera in your face.
I hate headshots.
Changing clothes, making sure your hair's right, or the light right. Okay, look over here. Hold the little hamster. Do you do that? No. That wasn't actually holding a hamster, but it's one of the things that I remember doing in a session at some point, where it's meant to like relax something or other. You know, photographers have techniques, and a good photographer will make a difference as to how they help you feel, how they make the session run.
It is an
intimidating good photographer
thing,
makes a hell of a difference. I'm sure you'd probably agree with that.
The person who did my banking did my last set of headshots. He was so good because I'm not necessarily nervous in front of the camera. Like I love doing my portfolio shoots that are like more full body, more like editorial-esque.
Yeah.
But I hate the camera being this close to my face. It's like you can see all my pores.
You don't need to worry about that.
I know, it's so silly.
I
remember before this is how silly it is. Actually, I had something to say about your headshots as well.
Okay.
But I remember
mine specifically.
Yeah.
Oh.
I remember going to get my first set of. So I was in third. Well, I'd finished second year. It was the summer going into third year, and that's when we got our first set of headshots done. And we went down to London. I went with my friend, and I was having like a really bad skin day. I was feeling rubbish.
Which is always the case when it's headshot day. You do all the prep, all your cleansing, headshot day,
pimples.
Big spot, middle of the forehead. Sorry, carry on.
I remember being so emotional and so like on edge. I was angry, I was sad, I wanted to cry. I was so stressed to get these stupid headshots right, you know. But again, that pressure came from, oh well, if you've got the best headshot, you're gonna get a job, and it's not that simple. Like if I just relaxed into that and not worried so much about ticking everyone else's boxes. So those headshots naturally would have been better.
Yeah.
And I remember getting the headshots back and hating them. Not because of my spots, because you couldn't see them at all. Just because I was so uptight and I was so like worried about them being right that I was like, oh. And then we went into college again in third year and everyone was comparing headshots and
You did,
like,
yeah.
but everyone was, and we got feedback from the teachers and mine wasn't very good because they weren't very good because I was so stressed about these headshots. It's just,
It's yeah.
but anyway,
I think helping people with headshots is really beneficial because it can make such a difference for the rooms you get into. So
we'll do a
quite a
headshot
big thing
one-on-one.
for me. What were you going to say?
Yeah, I was going to say, which again, perfect for identity in the industry. And I don't know if we've spoken about this before, but you tell the story about how
Oh yeah.
you shaved off your beard for one of your headshots because that's just what you were told to do, and you were just like, yeah, have a beardy one and a no face one. And then when you were speaking to, I don't know if it was your agent at the time or just another agent, they were like, it's an interesting choice because you have a beard and that is how you're marketing yourself, so why would you send me a headshot without a beard? And you were like, oh.
Oh yeah, that was my third year. So we, again, like you said, summer of second year into third year, we got our headshots, which was a stressful experience, but I did quite enjoy it overall. I think my headshots are all right. I had some most with a beard, some without, because I was like, well, let's give variation. But predominantly, I would have a beard. I wouldn't, unless I had to not have one, I would have one.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it was after. So we did the showcase and everything in London, and then must have been the first agent meeting I had after my showcase. And she came to Birmingham actually, so that was quite significant. She saw a few of us, and that was one of the first things she said. She was like, "Oh yeah, like you said, why have you picked this headshot when you have a beard? Because like this looks like what you want to present, but then you have a beard." And it was actually one of my tutors that helped me pick this headshot, and I was kind of like, well, I remember my tutor saying that this is I think the most accurate representation of you, and then it came to that moment, and it was almost a bit embarrassing because it's kind of like, well, I trusted that.
Yeah.
When it was kind of almost black and white, that
It's
it wasn't
yeah.
black and white.
When you say it to you, it's like, well, yeah, of course that makes sense,
Yeah.
but I just can't think about that. I didn't think about that.
Which, like you say, plays very well into identity in the industry, because it's like, I do think it's important to get external opinions on your headshots. I do think that is a good thing, but don't forget your own opinion. And
Yeah.
when I say external opinions, don't just get your mum and your gran. I could do a whole episode on this,
Yeah.
so I'm not going to say any more.
No, I actually think that's an interesting point because I don't know if you feel the same, right? But if my mum or my gran were to... my mum has photos up in the house from a portfolio shoot I did that I hate those photos. I hate them so much, but they're my mum's favourites, right? But because it's my mum and my gran, and I'm like, well... Like, you don't know anything about portfolio photos per se. You're my mum's. You're going to think photos of me look good, regardless of even if I look rubbish. So I instantly go, well, no, I know my opinion. Like, I'm putting my opinion about this above yours. So, yeah, like, whatever. I think we need to have that opinion a bit more, not maybe to that extent, with everyone, because then when it got to our tutors when we were training, or our agents or whatever, they were like, no, I like this photo. Even though I didn't like it, I'd be like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Whereas why don't you go, actually, no, I don't like it. This doesn't feel right to me. I like this one. How about this one that's compromised? What don't you like about this one? Why wouldn't, you need
to have an open dialogue about it, because I think I completely agree with what you say, but I think sometimes when you go to the other side of that, we as individuals, having gone through a process that's stressful, that's frustrating, will then be like, well, I want to pick this one because this one looks the best. And as good as that photo might be, it doesn't always mean that is what we look like.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
That makes sense.
Because you want to, if you have like the most glammed up photo that you've picked for your main headshot, and you walk in not looking like that headshot, it's going to be like, well, this is what I was expecting, and you're not looking like that. And that's like that can really put you on the back foot before you've even opened your mouth or done a pirouette. I don't know, but anyway, let's move away from this.
I know we've gone really into headshots,
but it's important. It's a part of the bigger picture. This is funny as well. I'm now looking at our third section of points, and we've kind of done it.
I know. I do think we've covered everything.
One thing we've got written down there is being typecast.
Yeah.
Which I think is an interesting point, because if you are getting regular work in a certain area, I suppose you have to maybe review things for yourself, because, and let's use an extreme example right now. This may be a bad example, but let's take Dwayne Johnson, right? Really tall, muscular guy.
Could not be Mickey Mouse.
Could not be Mickey Mouse, right? He's doing primarily stuff that's a bit more action involved. He's a big leading guy kind of thing. Quotation marks, leading guy. If he didn't want to be that, again, I feel like the industry's trying to adapt into different ways a bit, maybe, but generally speaking, he's not going to be, like you say, Mickey Mouse. Now, if he really wanted to be Mickey Mouse, could he do something about that? Because then the other side of that is it makes me think of Arnold Schwarzenegger, and obviously it's a bit before our time, but he came into the film industry and everything, and everyone was like, no one wants to, like, you're too big.
Yeah.
And now guys with muscles like that, you look at the Marvel universe, everyone's like absolutely shredded. So he paved a new path that allowed for something new.
Even within that, like, remember we were watching him on the telly and he was talking about his accent and how everyone was like, no one's going to work with you with that accent, like, he was told to get an accent coach, what he did, and like blah blah blah, to get rid of his accent, and in the end that's what makes him, it's and I think this is maybe because I've put like two different perspectives on this. Like, it comes back to the being realistic and like, are you going to really push through and fight for what you want? Or if you're happy, if there's a contentness in what you're doing and you're getting regular work, then I think that, I guess what I'm trying to ask, maybe I'm going to ask you this, do you compromise with yourself if you're in a position where you're working regularly, you're getting job after job in something that you're suitable for in your current state of whatever, or do you go for the thing that you really want? I don't know. That's, I think, individual. I think it depends what you want. Good point. I think for me, personally, I would rather try and do the thing I really wanted to do and have never work again than to just keep doing something because it's paying the bills and it's just, it's kind of what I want to do. It's kind of in the ballpark and getting jobs, so I'll just keep doing it. Unless it was maybe going to elevate me to where I wanted to go in the future. Unless it was like a stepping stone, then for me, I would rather cut my losses and be like, no, I'm going to go after what I actually want. But that doesn't mean it's wrong to, if you're someone who's quite happy to do all the jobs and float, like if you're doing that and you're finding joy in your life doing that, then keep doing it. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But if you're doing that and you're like, no, like I'm doing it because I'm scared to stop doing it, that's when you have to stop. Follow your creative inspiration, creative impulse. And if you're doing it because you enjoy it, keep doing it. If you're doing it because you're scared of the other option not working or not knowing what else to do, that's enough to say no, that's it. Take the risk in whatever it is. That's nice. I think that's a nice one to round off on, actually. This is a weird, I don't even know if we can call this episode Identity in the Industry, because it's like well, it started as Identity in the Industry. I think there's a lot of good stuff in there though about, it's a good chat. Good chat. Finding where you sit and following what you want to follow. 100%. And I think, like we always say, or pretty much always say, if you find something in here that you like, please take it, run with it, go with it. If not, then don't worry about it, or come back to it if you don't find it's relevant. If you want us to talk about any of the
bits we've kind of, I was going to say, talked briefly, quotation marks.
Definitely not briefly.
About, i.e. headshots or something else. Please let us know, because, we do offer help with headshots as well outside of this.
Yeah.
It's definitely something I feel very passionate about.
Show reels.
All sorts. Portfolio stuff as well, just to help you get in a good mindset, pick the right clothes. All these, there's so many different factors.
Even things like, if you've got an edition and you're like, what on earth do I wear to this edition?
Yeah, absolutely.
We are pros. We've done too many editions to name.
Get in touch. But yeah, we could maybe do an episode or something about that potentially. But let us know if you want more of that. Yeah, I think that's a good place to round it off.
Amazing.
Thanks
for listening, as always.
Yeah, thank you so much for listening. We'll be back again next week.
I want you to, if you have listened to this podcast and you've got to this point, first of all, congratulations. Second of all, go to our Instagram, and whatever our most recent post is, I want you to comment 5 monkey emojis. So we know you're the real Santa. We know. Right. And no one else will know, but we'll know. It's like a secret code.
Secret code. Cool. See you next week, monkeys.
Bye.
Bye.
You have been listening to Tina Chat with Quartz Academy.
If you have any questions or things you want to know, visit our website at www.quartzacademy.co.uk or email us info@quartzacademy.co.uk.
You can also find us on our socials, Instagram, Facebook and TikTok.
Thanks for listening.
We're so happy you're here. See you next week.
Bye.